Hi, this is Eli Kranzberg, and welcome to this series on the new Lead Architect instrument in Studio One 6.6. Now, the name suggests that it's for lead sounds, but it's actually very versatile, great for pads, keyboards, bass, all kinds of sounds. We're going to take a look from the ground up. In this first video, I want to do a quick kind of flyover of the interface, and we're going to spend about half the series going over all the details of the instrument, and the other half building up some custom instruments for a little musical arrangement. So right now we're looking at the global page, the default preset, and we use this main vector to switch between three different layers. So each preset can be comprised with up to 3 layers. And I can click on each of these to solo that and mute the other two. And then blend them. So this global page is meant for kind of macro broad stroke control over the instrument. We have a filter cutoff control, which affects the overall filter for the entire instrument. We can shift the speed of the sample playback here, which doesn't actually transpose the pitch, but affects the timbre of the sound. And we can quickly access the attack and release for each of the 3 layers separately here. They're all color-coded. And then here we can turn each of the 3 layers on and off individually. And we can click here to bring up the edit page, which we'll get to in a moment. And we can also use this to bring up a kind of browser to change the sound inside any one of the parts. For example, I just changed this first one. So it's a very different sound right away. We have a sample lock only here, where any adjustments we make in the edit page to all these underlying parameters, we can lock them and just audition different samples. And we have some global controls over here. We have global effects. We have an arpeggiator. We can turn it on. We tap there to show the parameters. We have a repeater that we can tap there to show the parameters and turn it on and off, and master, reverb, and delay. So here, for each of the 3 parts, we can send them to these global effects or not, the repeater and the arpeggiator, and the reverb and delay send over here. And then that's mirrored for each of the different parts, either the ARP or repeater or none, the reverb and delay send, and then we have panning. So that's kind of the overall control of the instrument. And of course, we get to the presets over here. And then we can use this to kind of quickly go in and out of the edit page. But what I prefer to do is tap here just so we know specifically which edit page we're on. And you can see they're all color-coded. So here we have LFO controls. We have 2 LFOs. We can sync to tempo. We have different shapes. We can have a delay to the onset of it. We have a multi-mode filter with lots of different possibilities here. We'll go over it all in detail. We have an amp envelope and a filter envelope. We have an offset to where the sample will start in the playback. We have transpose and fine tuning. And then we have per part controls for volume, velocity, and then we can make the instruments mono or polyphonic and have a glide control with a variable glide amount over here. So LFOs for modulation, filter, 2 envelopes, part controls. These are the same on each of the parts, but unique for each one. Now here we have 4 pages at the bottom for per part effects. On the A page, we have a choice of chorus, flanger, or phaser for modulation. We have a bit crusher, and we have distortion, which I really like, with lots of nice varieties of distortion. On the B page, we have a gator to chop up notes and get repeat effects, some broad stroke EQ, which is very useful, and some panning modulation, which is really useful. Now here we have a modulation matrix, and this is a very powerful component of Lead Architect. We can set a source here for what we want to use as a modulation source, and then we have a destination over here for which parameter we want to modulate, and we even have a via field for secondary modulation, and then a slider for bipolar, either negative or positive modulation, and then we have 2 slots for 16 modulation slots altogether. Now up here we can also access the individual sounds for each of the 3 layers, and that's the same as going into this menu over here, for example, and you see it update over there. So that's a quick kind of flyover of the instrument. It's a lot of fun, very versatile. We're going to take a deep dive and get started in the next video.